Hello, welcome to the Holistic Healer Podcast, a podcast dedicated to all things holistic. I am your host, Cheryl Lee. Today's guest is Jason Pickard. He is a Chek Holistic Health practitioner and has studied and experienced multiple cultural paths to greater health and higher consciousness. He has had the most transformative journey of being one of the top traders, achieving phenomenal success, all while losing his health in the process. We sit down today to discuss Jason's journey, his Abundance Archetype course, and giving new meaning to the word abundance. We speak about authenticity, moving through pain, cultivating deeper awareness, and so much more. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Holistic Healer Podcast. I'm your host, Cheryl Lee. And today's guest, I'm so excited, is Jason Pickard. He is a Chek Holistic Health practitioner and has studied and experienced multiple cultural paths to greater health and higher consciousness. He has the most transformative journey of being one of the top traders, achieving phenomenal success, all whilst losing his health along the way. So you've created the Abundance Archetype course, and we're going to get into that today. And it's basically serves to transform and unlock your individual potential through a step-by-step training program. So I'm so excited to get into that and so much more with you as well.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share with your audience.
Me too. Thank you so much. So I always like to just start. If you could just do, I've heard your journey, but I really would love for you to share it with the audience because it's such a beautiful transformation that you've experienced. So if you can just give us a backstory about what got you to this beautiful place now, it would be amazing.
Yeah, I had an amazing supportive upbringing, and I really kind of went the mainstream route in trying to pursue financial success. And at a very young age, I was able to do that. By the time I was 26, like you said, I was managing $1 billion portfolio at one of the world's top hedge funds and making tons of money. I was ranked one of the top 30 traders under 30 years old in the world. I had a really established niche in what I was doing there. But at the same time, my health was suffering. I was 330 pounds. I was obese. I was not doing very well. It was quite a paradox because on one hand, I was doing amazing, and on the other hand, I was quite poor, one could say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that started me on this quest for first actually losing the weight, and so I dedicated myself to exercise and worked really hard at losing 170 pounds. And it was quite interesting for me because at that point, I found myself now having financial success and having physical success, one could say, but I still felt like something was missing. And that really began this inner journey where I started looking inside. And I met a lot of great spiritual teachers around the world and a lot of great teachers in holistic health and psychology and integrative religion and various other fields, and wound up ultimately integrating that into my Wall Street practice, which made me sustainably successful and also allowed me to have enriching relationships and a successful personal life. And so I really just my path was really understanding for me what abundance actually means. That it's more than just having wealth. It's about having well-being as well, health, enriching relationships, family, and coupling that with having the means, kind of marrying the means with the meaning.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's ultimately why I left Wall Street, was to share this knowledge with the world that, the two don't have to have a divorce. We can have wealth and spirituality together. And in fact, it makes a more meaningful life. And for those of us on the spiritual path, it can actually provide us with a platform to share our knowledge and to have a bigger impact.
Wow. Yes. Wow. That is just 2 years and just to transform. But I've heard you say too that when you were working with Paul Chek, it was one of those things where you basically traded in one form of kind of addiction and you went into the exercise realm and you kind of had to put that to the side as well.
Yeah, I did recognize that in terms of my weight loss in particular.
Yeah.
That basically I took the addiction to intensity that I had into doing things to excess, really to just a more socially acceptable format.
Right. Yeah.
Which was now exercising 7 days a week, twice a day, being really strict on my diet. And I realized ultimately that wasn't actually the root of it either.
Right.
I still found myself at the end of that process kind of being really burnt out, adrenal fatigue, and still kind of not feeling fulfilled. So the exercise piece was important, but it ultimately wasn't really at the root cause of what was having me feel like something was missing.
Yeah, for sure. So, how did you reconcile? Like, there must have been kind of like a grieving of that old version of yourself, like the death sometimes when we go from, one version of ourselves and we step into another. Did you experience that kind of a grieving of that person who you had identified with for such a long time into this new version of yourself?
Not so much. I think what I found more was that I had to go through that process when I left Wall Street.
Okay.
I really identified as the Wall Street trader. It was something that I loved to do. It was really important to me. I was
Yeah.
kind of powerful person in some ways, and a person that had a lot of connections and networks. And then all of a sudden you leave Wall Street and it's fade to black.
Yeah.
There's no emails, there's no text messages, there's no people calling you to take you out to dinner or to pick your
Right.
brain or anything like that. And there certainly is a grieving process around that. It's sort of like you said, a loss of losing a part of yourself.
Yeah.
So there's this period of denial and regrets come up, and did I make the right decision?
Sure.
A little bit of shock. Who am I now? Am I just this
Yeah.
person who drives my kids back and forth to school? Is that really my whole reason for being here? But what I ultimately found was that what helped me through that was connecting to actually a deeper thread underneath the identity. When I
Right.
when I was a kid, I really loved drumming and magic.
Mm.
I still do,
Yeah.
especially drumming. And I kind of traded that dream in of wanting to be a professional drummer at some point around 12, 13 years old, when I decided that I wanted to be a Wall Street trader.
Right.
But when I was going through this sort of grieving process of losing that identity, I realized that actually what made me a great trader was that I could tap into the rhythm and the beat of the market.
Right.
And that I got that same kind of aha magic moment when I was creative and was able to be successful in that field. And then when I moved into the coaching field, it was the same thing, that I could actually feel the rhythm of my clients and
Mm.
help them establish rhythm and ritual in their own life. And when I turned them on to a new way of looking at their own life, it felt like magic to me.
Wow.
So I
Yeah.
realized that the trader, the coach, and the abundance archetype creator, in some ways, are the top level, the identity, what we put on our business card.
Right.
If you're thinking of an ice cream cone, it's kind of like the ice cream that you can see on top. But
Yes.
as you go deeper into the cone, to the parts that are hidden, and ultimately the cone goes down to a single point. That
Mm.
that single point for me, that was moving through all these archetypes and all of these kind of identities, was actually that love of rhythm and drumming and connection to the beat, and I could actually express that as well as the magic through any kind of field. And
Right.
so when I reconciled that, I realized that I actually didn't leave anything behind. I'm still connected to the same thing that made me successful in that field. It's just kind of the mask changed of how it was
Yeah.
presented.
Yeah. So when you talk about archetype, for those who don't know even what, because we can put archetype, there's all kinds of different
Yeah.
archetypes, but maybe can you just explain when you say abundance archetype, what that actually means?
Yeah. Yeah. So the first thing is defining both of those words, right? So
Mhm.
what is abundance?
Yeah.
Right. And so, we talked a little bit about it in terms of, for me, it's about having wealth and well-being, and
Yes.
not one or the other. If we have a lot of money, but we don't have great relationships and people to share it with, or we don't have a bigger why of why we're doing it, or we have poor health, does it really matter how much money
Yeah.
we have? And if we have a great message and we have a great spiritual purpose, but we don't really have the means to share that with the world, are we really having the ultimate impact? So for
Right.
me, it's really combining the two. It's having meaningful work and finding, good, true, and beautiful things in our life, and having the vitality to live life fully and to share it.
Right.
If you dig deeper into the word abundance, it actually comes from the Vedic deva, or the personified laws of nature, of water, Varuna, or you might hear these things called undines or
Mm.
unda, which are water spirits. So,
Wow.
we're essentially 99.9% water beings by molecular count.
Right.
So abundance is literally unto us. It goes, yeah, it goes from making the objects of our life the pursuit of our abundance, to a role reversal where we make us the subject, the object, by
Right.
looking inwards. It's ultimately our ability to flow with life. It's our
Okay.
fluidity, and that gives us affluence. And
Right.
so, when I do deep studies of meaning and fulfillment, For example, if you look at Viktor Frankl's work of The Man's Search for Meaning or Saying Yes to Life, he gives these examples of people being walked into the concentration camp, being
Yeah.
walked into the gas chamber, singing songs of yes to life. And it's a pretty shocking example. But ultimately, what they're showing there is that even in suffering, even in pain, you can control your attitude towards it and try to find meaning in it. And that at the
Yes.
end of the day, nobody can take away your vibe, your
Right.
frequency, or your attitude to the situation. There are many things in our life that we can't control,
Yeah.
and our approach to them, our attitude towards them, our attitudinal psychology
Right.
is ultimately our ability to be abundant.
Right.
Now, archetype is another interesting term. Sticking with the yogic Vedic theme, it comes from one of the names. There's 108 names of the sun, and one of them is Arca, which
Okay.
gives us archetype and architecture. So archetypes are really the blueprint realm or the architecture.
Okay.
If you were gonna build a house, you would want to have plans.
Yes.
If you're going to grow an oak tree, there has to be an acorn that holds the blueprint. And so back to the sun analogy, the sun is projecting all of these various rays down to us. And in that same way, there's this idea realm or this ideal realm of blueprints that are being projected down to us in which we can embody. And so that's essentially this idea is that one of the 99 names of God in Sufi concept or Sufi
Yep.
religion
Yep.
is that the universe is abundant. If you study nature, and it's pretty obvious to see nature's abundant. So there's this generosity, there's this
Yeah.
abundance that is a natural trait in nature, and the abundance archetype is kind of tapping into that blueprint realm of what does that really mean for me, and what does that look like in my life.
Right. Okay.
And
I
so,
love that.
personally, why I picked this is because I feel like I'm learning that in my lifetime.
Yeah.
We may have different archetypes that we're working with, like the mother or the
Hmm.
father or the teacher or the student or the warrior, the
Yep.
king or the queen or various things like that. And for me, I found that my life path is actually learning about what abundance truly means to me and
Hmm.
sharing that with the world. And that my experience going into Wall Street and the spiritual traditions has kind of led me down that path. And so I keep laughing, but I'm learning more about abundance by teaching about
Yeah.
abundance than I ever did by trying to figure it out. And so I'm on
Yeah.
this path with my students as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I thought that might be a good segue too to talk a little bit about I know the word kind of gets thrown around a lot, the spiritual bypassing and we want to move into, the joy, the what brings us that abundance in all areas of our life. But can you speak a little bit to the, like Paul Chek calls it, the pain teacher, and
Mm.
how the traumas, the woundings, the things like that can't be bypassed to get to that point? I think a lot of people now are, because spirituality is kind of, it's a word that's thrown around loosely with a lot of people, and it's not maybe fully embodied to a certain degree, and it just means like, no, it just means being happy all the time, and finding your way is just being positive and always seeing the positive, and of course we want to be on that positive path. But how, like, even for your life, looking back and seeing all of your challenges that were really necessary to get you to the place that you are now, and how kind of confronting that shadow part of ourselves or the wounded parts of ourselves is so necessary to step into that abundance archetype, if
Yeah.
you might agree
There's
with
a
that.
lot there.
Yeah. No.
I like where you're going, because I think it's important to define first what spirituality is.
Yeah, let's do that.
It's a word that we throw out there, and if you look at spirituality etymologically, it doesn't really get you too far, because
Right.
it takes you to a place where it talks about spirit as breath.
Mm,
It basically says if we say we're spiritual, in some ways we're saying that we're air breathing people, which
right.
doesn't really say too much about it. But
Yeah.
in some ways, it's difficult because the English language doesn't actually have words to define these things.
Yeah.
When we talk about the air, it's something that we can't touch. So in some way, it's like this ephemeral thing that we're trying to grab a hold on. But ultimately, for me, what we're saying with spirituality is that we're not from here.
Right.
We're from somewhere else,
Yeah.
right? And so in yoga, they say aham brahmasmi, which is I am from Brahman. I am I'm a being from Brahman
Hmm.
that has come here to have a particular experience.
Right.
And so the whole idea of spirituality is recognizing that who we are really is what they call in yoga an atma, or that we would call a soul.
Right.
But an atma is an indivisible, immortal individual that has come from another realm, which we would
Yeah.
call spiritual and they would call Brahman, entering into this earth plane to have a particular experience of learning and growing of how to love.
Right.
And
Okay.
that's actually the purpose. You see, the purpose is not necessarily just to be happy, because in a world of polarity that we live in, happiness will ultimately come with sadness.
Right.
The whole concept is that no matter what happens in your life, you identify as a being that is not from here, that is immortal, that is here having an experience. And you're able to maintain sort of that middle way, or
Hmm.
that balance principle despite what's happening.
Hmm.
So, the pain is just as big of an awakener as the pleasure. In fact, if you look back at your own life, or if anyone looks back at their own life, they may find that the painful moments actually brought more meaning to their life than the pleasurable ones.
Yeah.
I certainly learned a lot more about how to coach people that are having weight issues by having been 330 pounds, for example.
For sure.
In my course, I talk about using your body symptoms as your investing ally,
Mm.
which is pretty trippy. But the idea is that the pain, or let's just say a body symptom, is here to awaken us to something. If we don't have that pain, we don't know that something is
Right.
off.
Yes.
It's actually our friend. In a lot of ways, we try to repress it. But if we actually look at it and says, what is this showing me? Where am I out of balance? Where do I need to grow? Where do I need to find harmony? Where do I need to do things in a different way? We can use that pain as our teacher.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
So,
I think the spiritual bypassing for me gets into this idea where we kind of, people say, oh, well, everything here is an illusion,
mm,
or it's all one.
yeah.
It's all one. And we throw away our individuality and our responsibility to take care of this body. It's not that it's not real, it's just temporary.
Right.
This, to say the body and this experience is not real is, to me, spiritual bypassing.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
throwing away the responsibility that you have to treat your body well and to use it to, live the fullest life you can. Not taking care of your responsibilities with your family or your community or your work just because it's all one, to
Right.
me, is not the point. I think you have to understand paradox where, yes, it is all one. We all do
Hmm.
come from the same place. In
Yeah.
essence, we are all the same. You could take the Buddhist path where it's all nothing.
Mm.
I see the Buddha behind you, which I love Buddhas. I
Yeah.
have many in my house. It's all emptiness, and
Yeah.
it's all nothing. And in some ways that is true. If you look at what even our body or the universe is made out of, it's mostly empty space. So in some ways
Right.
it is all coming from nothing. But it's also important that we embrace the individuality and our role here and not
Right.
throw that away. And so
Yes.
to me, spiritual bypassing is often when we just point at terms like spirituality without really defining them, and really kind of foregoing our own responsibility to really live our life and to make meaning out of it.
Right. And so by looking at those events that have happened in our life that maybe sometimes are the most, I mean, I've always said that I personally think that, our biggest growth and evolution usually mostly comes from those hard times where we have to really dig in and ask the questions. And, like how in your course, for example, is part of that incorporated where there is, because some people don't even know where to begin when it comes to like looking at, well, what is it, what are my triggers, like what is my wounding, they haven't looked at any of that. So what are some strategies that you might use to lead people in that direction, so that they can start to uncover more of themselves in that way?
Yeah, so I mean, certainly there are belief systems which are really driving this, and so we all have, let's say, a money blueprint,
Yeah.
which are the things that we learned around money. That
Yeah.
money means always having to save it, or always having to spend it, or I can only, I'll never make more than X amount per
Yeah.
month, or I always have to work 80 hours a week in order to be successful. So you have
Right.
to
Right.
explore your story around money.
Hmm.
And one of the fun things that I found to be very helpful is actually looking at our earliest childhood memories. So if
Yeah.
you look at your earliest childhood memories of relationships, earliest childhood memories of money,
Yeah.
or just earliest childhood memories in general. They are this like window, these breadcrumbs you leave yourself so that you can kind of really understand more your deeper purpose and what are the things that you need to overcome in your life. So that's kind of where we
Right.
start. That's like ground zero in my course.
Yeah. Okay. And I've heard you talk about also about the investment piece where coming from your background, people will say what should I invest in?
Yeah.
Thinking of it on a financial level. And you've said like the best investment is to invest back into yourself. But what happens if someone really has no money to speak of, like enough to pay their, the bare minimums, the basics? Like investment in yourself could mean just listening maybe to something that would be uplifting, like a podcast, for example? Or
Yeah.
like, what are some ways that people can start investing in themselves with money or without money?
I think it's a great point. And so what I'll say is, yes, people come to me all the time and say they want this like magic pill. Okay,
Hmm.
where do I have a couple $1,000s? Where should I invest it?
Yeah.
And I try to explain to them, it's like you wouldn't walk into a hospital and just say you're going to go do the brain surgery today, or you're not going to
Right.
go onto an NBA court and spend $3,000 to see if you could beat LeBron
Yeah.
James in a free throw contest, right? But when it comes to the stock market, they don't realize that they're dealing with the same level of expertise. You're competing against people who spend their entire life and billions of dollars trying to capture fractions of a millisecond to get a competitive edge. And
Right.
you're walking in and you're going to take your hard-earned money and just throw it into the wind.
Yeah.
You might as well go to the casino, so to speak, right? So, I always say, like, I've seen people get so much more exponential returns by investing in themselves. And that can come in various ways. I mean, it could be like for you in this podcast, just investing in a social media team or a
Right.
marketing team or a distribution of this podcast. That is likely going to get you better returns in something that you can control and something that you can own yourself than just, putting your money in a mutual fund and hoping to
Right.
get
Right.
lucky with it. In terms of what you can do if you don't have money, I mean, there are a lot of simple things. It doesn't cost any more money, time, or energy to think positive thoughts than negative thoughts.
Right.
It doesn't cost any money to go to sleep on time.
Yeah,
It
for
doesn't
sure.
cost any money to change the content of what you're looking at, to stop playing video games, to
Yeah.
read a different book, or to listen to a different kind of podcast.
Yeah.
If you really look at your food choices and how much money you're spending on food versus, doctor's visits and prescription pills and things like that, there are a lot of simple ways you can have higher quality food into your diet that
Yeah,
actually doesn't have
absolutely.
a huge bottom line. I mean, breathing,
Yeah,
for
for sure.
example,
How we breathe. Yeah.
surrounding yourself with positive people, moving your body.
Yeah.
None of these things actually cost money to do, and they're an amazing way to start investing in yourself today. And if you had the money to invest in something, I'd much rather see you invest in your own education, your own health, your own business
Yeah.
than putting money into something completely blind.
Yeah, for sure. So, what does it mean like when you hear, it's tossed around a lot too, like doing the work? You have to do the work. And by the work, I mean doing the inner work, doing the, going in, looking inside, unpacking certain things. What does that mean to you, like to do the work? What is your description of that?
Yeah, it's a good question. What's coming up for me is that I believe that we live in a very meaningful universe.
Hmm.
That everything that happens to me, every fantasy, every song that pops into my head, every dream I have, every person I meet on the street, every, so-called synchronicity or coincidence, that there's all a deeper meaning behind it
Hmm.
that I
Hmm.
can extract information out of that can actually support me in my life. So
Right.
if I get into a conflict with somebody, what's there for me to learn there? What's my
Yeah.
contribution in this? How am I like that person? How do I see from their shoes? And how do
Hmm.
I need a little bit more of their energy in my life?
Right.
Um, if something happens to me like a body symptom, why is this in my life?
Yeah.
Is this a random occurrence, or is there something more meaningful here? I think we get confused sometimes because we wouldn't walk into an art gallery and think that the art on the wall was just randomly placed there, right? We don't look at Fortune 500 companies and think that an Amazon just randomly happened.
Yeah.
But we look around at our universe and oftentimes we think that there's no intelligence behind it.
Right.
But like, think about the intelligence that created this planet, that
Yeah.
created the sun and the stars and the moon that are orbiting. We were talking about Vedic astrology
Yeah.
before we got on this call, that, the whole solar system is orbiting itself in 25,900 year cycles down to the second.
Yeah.
I mean, there's incredible intelligence in life.
Mhm.
And for me, doing the work is just engaging in that. It's just
Right.
like having a curiosity to
Yeah.
understand the events of my life and the things that I'm coming across with on a daily basis, and looking them as feedback to ways for me to evolve myself.
Yeah, for sure. So more self-inquiry, more like always inquiring, asking yourself the questions rather than always looking outside of yourself would be
I
part
think
of
so.
doing the
Yeah.
work.
I
Yeah,
think
for
that's
sure.
important. I think
And
that's important.
do you feel that part of that is also like how do you put any importance on doing any kind of like inner child work, like healing those parts of ourselves from our childhood that may have been when our first traumas occurred, and going back and reconciling that to move
I think
in?
I think I think too, one of the lessons that I've learned recently is actually looking at more of the positive things.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
had so many beautiful things in
Yeah.
my childhood,
Hmm.
and sometimes it's easy to focus on the negative ones, but actually like
Yeah, for sure.
harvesting like all of the gifts that we've had in this life.
Yes. Yeah, for
You know,
sure.
for me, I think, whether or not it's a childhood issue or not, that oftentimes life gets too serious for me.
Mm, yeah.
I'm focusing too much on my work or on too much on responsibilities. And a really simple thing that I learned that has helped me a lot from a Hawaiian kahuna that I studied with named Harry Uhani Jim. He just taught me to look at myself in the morning. Imagine looking at my 7-year-old childhood self,
Yeah.
putting my hand over my heart and looking at him and saying, I got you.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful.
I got you.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's do this today. Let's
Yeah.
be together today. Let's have fun today. I'm going to
Yeah.
take you with me today. I think that that's really important. At the same time, I also think it's important to look at our 90-year-old self,
Mm,
our deathbed self each day.
yeah.
Carlos Castaneda talks about that as using your death as your spiritual advisor. Asking yourself, if I were to die tomorrow, would I do what I'm about to do?
Right.
And so asking your childhood self, does this jive with my ideas of a playful, curious, fun existence, an
Yeah.
open-minded existence? At the same time, paradoxically asking your 90-year-old self, how do you feel about this decision?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do
That's,
you feel about taking this job? How do you feel about making this decision or this risk I'm about to take or not going to take? How would you look at your legacy
mm,
around this decision? And so I think it's important to pull both ends of the spectrum,
yeah.
and you can
I
learn a
love
lot
that.
from looking at how would my playful childlike side think of this, and how would my wise elder end of life look back at this decision. And that's been a pretty good
Yeah. I
guidance for
love
me.
that. That's like real integration of both, both sides. And I don't know if you know Rich Roll's wife, Julie Pyatt. I belong to her water tiger community, and she, one thing she does is she has a photo of herself from when she was about 7 or 8 years old, and she keeps it in her purse. And she's always aware and asking that little girl in herself, like, how do you feel about this? Like, what's this bringing up for you? And then, and really going into that place before she makes any really decisions, putting her first.
Yeah.
And, for her, she said it's been absolutely transformational.
Well, I'll say
Um,
two things about that. It's interesting to do that. That's a great idea. But we may also want to make an AI generated
yeah, the
picture of
90-year-old.
herself at 95 and
Yeah, for sure.
carry that around. You
Yeah.
know, I think why both are important, because it's what I found is that there's a paradox, is that we have to live like today could be our last day.
Yes.
And at the same time, we have to live like we have many lifetimes.
Yeah.
There's not a rush. And at the same time, there's a rush,
There's a right.
right?
It's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, to me, I think that the childhood and the elder really help in that, is if we can access it now, that we don't know if today's going to be our last. And we want to have that kind of perspective at the same time, realizing that we don't have to take it so seriously, and that there's no rush to
Yeah.
solve any kind of problems or, fix
Hmm.
anything. So yeah, I think those, but for me, it's not, to me, what I'm getting back to more and more is that I feel like on purpose, when I'm more and more connected to that drumming and that magic each day,
Yeah.
and that's for me, but for everybody needs to find themselves. I found that it's more valuable, not so much to think about what was wrong at 7, but it was like, what did you really love to do?
Right.
Did you love horses? Did you love to play baseball? Did you love art?
Yeah.
And it may not actually be being a professional baseball player, right?
Right.
At 45 or 50, that's probably past you. But
Sure.
what was the essence of it? What did you
Here.
love about it? Oh, I loved being on a team and I love
Mm.
this particular aspect or this competitive nature. And then trying to find that in your life now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was going to ask you, what are some ways that we can cultivate more awareness in our life to be able to actually feel into that more, to really, start to, because I think we can get caught up in our day to day, and to take the time, which is another, what I want to talk to you about is ritual, and taking the time every day to really sit and be with ourselves instead of being overly stimulated all the time, which is so easy to do now.
Yeah.
So maybe just like ways to cultivate that deeper awareness, to really tap into those areas of ourselves. And then maybe for you that might, I don't know, but taking the time, I don't know if it's meditation or maybe you're drumming, these types of things. Like, what are some
Yeah.
ways that you might kind of cultivate more of that?
Yeah, it's very interesting because what I found is that to be successful, and we could even talk about this in a purely financial way,
Sure.
but that there's a process of separation and return that goes with creative thought and really new ideas and new ways of looking at it.
Okay.
You may find, or anyone who's listening may find, that the big breakthrough moments don't happen when they're necessarily sitting at the desk,
Right.
trying to grind it out.
Yes.
For me, it seems like those moments when I'm in the shower, or when I finally take a vacation, or on the weekend when I let go, or in that long car ride,
Yeah.
I had the breakthrough thoughts, and I have the breakthrough thoughts that come in. So there's this balance of doing the work, what we call like the left brain linear logical kind of grunt work, but then dropping it and letting it go and entering into a more creative, playful, or even restful state to
Right.
allow new insights to come in and to almost access our listening or more receptive side,
Right.
and joining those together. The same
Hmm.
thing happens in relationships. We've all had the experience of leaving our loved ones, our children, or our lover, and missing them more than when we're there with them.
Right.
So there's some kind of value in actually this process of coming together and then leaving. And in fact, the emotions of leaving can sometimes be stronger than when we're there because we take it for
Yeah.
granted.
So
And so
true.
there has to be this interplay of work and rest,
Hmm.
of on and off, of
Right.
separation and return,
Mm.
of left brain and right brain, and
Hmm.
putting them all together. And
Right.
for me, in this day and age where we have computers doing that left brain linear logical work really well for us, we
Hmm.
can go on Chat GPT or something like that, and it
Yeah.
could search the internet before we could even, it's populated.
Yeah.
If you've ever been on there, it's populated an amazing amount of data in a fraction of a second. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. But we have to get down to, so how do we compete with that? Well, we have to access that whole right brain side that
Right.
really comes when we couple the work with the rest. So we have the ability to dream.
Mm.
So paying attention to our dreams at night is an amazing amount of intelligence and information. We can also dream during the day. What's catching our attention? What's flirting with us in the moment?
Yeah.
What are we fantasizing about?
Mm.
What are the things that catch our eye on the street, or like kind of the random occurrences that are happening when we meet somebody
Yeah.
special, or we see something beautiful in a store window that catches our eye?
Yeah.
This is all dreaming during the day, and we have to interact with that. We have the wisdom of our bodies. AI doesn't have a body, and we have 5 billion years of evolution in our body that has so much information. We
Yeah.
also have a human heart, which has the ability to discern based on a set of values that AI doesn't really have. If you ask AI, is such and such practice good for me? it may give you just as much information saying it's good as at bad. Let's say cold showers. You'll
Yeah.
get Wim Hof who'll say it's the greatest thing in the world. Then
Yeah.
you'll get some doctor somewhere that said cold showers will make you sick and
Exactly.
you shouldn't take them.
Yeah.
So, that's just an example, but ultimately we have to connect to that heart center of ourselves where we have to discern, is this right for me?
Yes.
And all of those things only happen when we can shut down the computer, so to speak, even for a few minutes each day. So in my course, I really teach people that I want you to do all the work, the left brain work. We don't want to throw that away. We want to be
Yeah.
good at that. But we want to systematically take time out during our day, whatever that could be. That could
Mhm.
be meditation, that could be going in the sauna, that
Yeah.
could be going on a walk, playing with your dog, doing art, playing music, being out in nature. I even teach people in my course little 1 to 2 minute, what I call microdose meditations,
Mhm.
where you can actually do these things at your desk by just slightly altering your state in a creative way without medicines or anything like that,
Yep.
just by looking at the problem a little bit differently. So I think it's important to not wait for these eureka moments to just happen
Yes.
spontaneously, but to cultivate them and finding a practice that works for you where you can get into that more receptive state, whatever that may be, and you
Mhm.
can actually access new information about your life and work.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. So speaking of plant medicine, a lot of people are doing and incorporating plant medicine into their life right now. Where do you stand on plant medicine for really evolving and growing and kind of tuning into some higher consciousness through, let's say, properly facilitated plant medicine
Yeah.
journeys?
I think what I would say is that there's no bad drug, there's just an incorrectly prescribed ones.
Got you.
And
Love that.
so I think they're an extremely valuable tool
Hmm.
when used intelligently,
Okay.
obviously in a sacred manner,
Yes.
in a manner that honors nature and yourself, that has the right setting, the right environment, the right guide, the right preparation, the right integration. I think it's an extremely powerful tool and
Mm,
amazing medicines that are naturally provided for us. And there's a lot of research that says that this is how we actually evolved as humans.
right.
In my life personally, they've been very, very powerful.
Okay.
However, I've seen them be abused more times than I can even count.
Yeah.
I see more people doing them wrong than doing them right. So I'm very kind of skittish to recommend them
Yeah.
because it's become almost like pop culture to do these things now. And in a lot of ways, they're even being, put into the pharmaceutical world with corporations taking over this kind of thing. So
Yeah, for
I,
sure.
I, I think they're incredibly powerful and incredibly amazing teachers and medicines that can have profound healing results and insight, which could be very beneficial, but they have to be done extremely respectfully and under the right guidance. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I don't see that happening more than I
No.
see it happening. And so I think you have to be very careful
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
and make sure that it's coming from a place of deeply calling you.
Mm, yeah, that's a really good point because
That inside yourself that this feels right for you
yeah.
and that this is something that you have a deep calling to try and participate
Yes.
in, and make sure you do the research to be with the right people or person
Yeah.
to guide you through this, because it's a very serious undertaking that can have big impacts on your life, positive
Mm,
and negative,
mhm.
and you want to be in alignment with all of the above.
Yeah. Is there a place then, do you think, for for example, microdosing? Like there's a lot of microdosing of mushrooms, microdosing of LSD,
Mhm.
microdosing of all of these different things rather than going through a full journey, so to speak. What are your thoughts on people microdosing these things? Because a lot of people are doing that now.
Yeah. I think it's pretty much the same
Really?
in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. I think again, people could be doing them in a process of
Yeah.
spiritual bypassing
Mm,
when they're just taking lots of medicines and not really doing the work, and they're going from drug to drug to drug without actually integrating, what did I learn here?
yeah.
In the Native American traditions, when they do these kind of medicine ceremonies, they have this idea of a year and a day until you do the next one, meaning it takes a year and a day to fully integrate what you could download in one kind of setting like that and really process it and embody it.
Yes.
And so many people are jumping from ceremony to ceremony to ceremony, from drug to drug to drug. And,
Hmm.
we have the same kind of habits in everything, really,
Of course. Yeah.
from job to job to job to,
Yeah. It just shows up
lover to
in
lover to
the different
lover to
areas. Yeah.
TV shows or whatever. And so, I think the same problems are there, but on the flip side, I also think that there can be incredibly healing. And, I don't know these studies offhand, but I've seen people do quite well with doing microdose levels and having some kind of profound
Hmm.
results with them as well. So again, it has to be a deep calling. You have to be done respectfully. You have
Yeah.
to ask yourself, why are you doing this?
Yes.
Why are you doing this? Are you running away from something? Is there something that is you're trying to mask, or is this a deeper exploration for you? What's really the point here? I think that they have the possibility to be a lot less harmful than many of the pharmaceutical options for some of the
Sure.
things we do. And I think we should continue studying them with all hands on deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. What is working in?
Working in
What does
is
that mean?
that's a technology that Paul Chek
Hmm.
coined, but
Hmm.
essentially it's any kind of yin or softer practice, right? So we work out,
Yep.
where when we go to the gym and we work out, we're actually using energy. If we're
Right.
going to lift weights or to go on a 6 mile run or even do like most of the yoga type classes,
Yeah.
like hot yoga
Yep.
or, core yoga, or like, it's like almost like a CrossFit type
It
yoga.
is.
We're working really hard and we're using energy. Working in is actually you create more energy by doing the exercise than is, used up by doing it. Right.
Okay.
So so some of the simple things is like, you have to be able to control your breathing.
Okay.
If you can't control your breathing, you're working out. If you can monitor your breathing, if we can have this conversation while we're doing it, like we're going on a nice, easy walk together,
Yes.
that's working in.
Okay.
Tai Chi, very kind of soft yoga, stretching, moving meditation,
Mm.
walking, things like that, where we're actually moving our body and we're exercising in a way,
Hmm.
but we leave feeling more energized than when we came into it.
Gotcha. Oh,
And so
that's
it's
good.
basically slow movement
Hmm.
coupled with breathing. And it can be in any format that you want, as long as you're able to control your breath, your heart rate doesn't get elevated, and you're moving relatively slowly while doing it.
Okay. Yeah. And
And
that's
so
really,
the reason why this is important is because most people, let's say in the financial world,
mm,
are already pretty stressed out.
yeah.
They're waking up, they're on the run, they're commuting to work, they're trying to get there on time, dealing with all sorts of deadlines, responsibilities, and stressors. Maybe their diet isn't perfect, which is a stress. Maybe they're having relationship stress. Maybe they have other things on their mind too that's causing them stress.
Right.
Maybe they had a few drinks after work, which is stressing them out. Then all of
Yeah.
a sudden, what do? They go into the gym and they do this like CrossFit,
Yeah.
badass workout,
Yeah.
where they're giving themselves even more stress. Now it's
Yeah.
kind of a good stress, but stress is additive.
Sure.
The body doesn't really differentiate, oh, this is a good stress versus a bad
Yeah.
stress. So you have to be mindful
Mm.
of where your stress cup is. And on a day when you have low stress, you ate well, you got good sleep, you don't have a lot of challenges, work's going really well, that's a great day to go into the gym and work out.
Right.
And then you have this other day where you didn't get to sleep on time, or
Yeah.
you ate out at a restaurant and maybe your stomach's not feeling great, or you had this big stress load at work.
Mm.
That's a day to work in. And so we monitor ourselves. And one of the simplest ways to do that is by checking your morning heart rate first thing in the morning. So if you know your average morning heart rate, because let's say, you go out and you check it for the next 20 or
Yeah.
30,
Yeah.
30 days. So your average morning heart rate is 55 beats.
Okay.
I'm just making that up.
Okay.
So you have to know what it is for you.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning and your average heart rate is now 10 beats over average.
Yes.
Your body is showing you that you're stressed out.
Yeah.
Maybe you, like I said, it could be any of the things. And then you have to be a little bit of a detective. What did I do yesterday that
Yeah.
might be causing this today? And as a biofeedback mechanism, so now I could change my values or have more information. Oh, I had this particular kind of food and it's not sitting well with me. My body's working harder. My heart rate's now elevated. Now I have some kind of feedback to know, okay, maybe I shouldn't eat that one. Or maybe I say when I eat that, that's great. I do it because I love it, but I know what the consequences are.
Right.
And now this is a day when I shouldn't be going and pushing myself in the gym
Yeah.
because I'm more prone to injury, illness, or some kind of stress related symptom.
Yeah.
So I think working in is just it's the polarity to working out. It's a great
Yep.
tool to have. I
So
found that
important.
personally when I was on Wall Street and I was working long hours, that when I would take these breaks like every hour, just by doing a minute or two of a working in exercise, which I teach in my course,
Yep.
can give me a lot of energy, clarity. It pumps my body. I feel good, and
Yeah.
I don't need to rely on stimulants or anything else to keep me focused and going.
Right. So that's like a daily practice. You're mindful and you're incorporating that into your daily practice most days.
Yeah, I try to
Hmm.
because I tend to be
Yeah, of course.
more on the exerting myself too much side, like most
Yeah.
of us probably are. For somebody who is not doing much in their life, it may be better for them to get more working out, for
Right.
example. But I tend to lean on the pushing myself and excess side of things. So I need to incorporate more working in to stay
Working in.
balanced. But, they're both just technologies that we can use. Now, that working in is a great way to get accessing that kind of quiet space. I
Yeah.
felt that if I could every hour or two while I'm at work, if I could take a few minute break to breathe, just do like literally simply like a breathing squat, just putting your arms over your head and inhaling and then exhaling and squatting down like you're going to sit in a
Mm.
chair and just
Yep.
doing that 10 times is enough to clear myself, to
Mm.
recharge myself and give me vitality and focus. And often those can be when those creative moments come in.
Come in.
So
Yeah.
I really like to balance my day with working in because
Yeah.
I feel like it's just needed for me.
For sure. Yeah. So important. So one thing when I went, I guess it's a couple years ago now, I did the Paul Chek's mandala workshop and he did my life path number for me. And I ended up being the number 7, the Hierophant, or sorry, number 5, the Hierophant.
Hierophant, yeah.
Yeah. Hierophant. And, it was so interesting to me. And I've heard you talk about you're the lovers, right? That's your
Yeah.
card, your
Yeah.
card. And how important, because I don't know that a lot of people know about the power of the tarot and how finding what our life path number is and the sign kind of that's associated with that, how that can give us so many clues into our direction, what we're here to learn and do. And so maybe if you could just share your life path number and
Mhm.
how that has kind of shown up for you and what you've learned from that and what you're continually learning from
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I'm a 6,
Yeah.
and that is the lovers.
Hmm.
And these are all archetypes, and we can talk a little
Yeah.
bit about more about that. But just in
Yeah.
short, the archetype of the lovers is really about relationships.
Right.
And if I look back at my life and I see the biggest challenges that I have and the places of biggest learning and growth and fulfillment, it's all been about relationships. The first one for me was really relationship to myself.
Yeah.
And then I look at all the different relationships that I've had, like you know, the ex-wife and all of the amazing and painful things that came out of that. But I've learned so much by engaging in relationships. And I realized like, it's actually a place where I have a lot to learn in this lifetime.
Right.
And so for me, it's just like been spot on is that, okay, how do we integrate the right brain with the left brain? How do we integrate the mind with the heart? How do we
Right.
integrate the masculine with the feminine? How do I
Yeah.
integrate my relationship to myself, my relationship to my partner, my relationship to my kids, my relationship to my work? Balancing all of those relationships
Yeah.
has been the place of largest conflict and the place of most growth for me in my life.
Mm.
So, as the Hierophant, your path is to become a teacher,
Hmm.
which is why you have the Holistic Healer podcast.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about the Hierophant is that all of the 4 cards that come with the Hierophant, the 4 suits of the Hierophant, are all what are considered negative cards. So the
Mm.
path to the Hierophant comes with 4 different challenges. And that's where we get the
Right.
idea of the wounded healer, that
Got
somebody
you.
who's the Hierophant has kind of went through the fire walk of life, gained the wisdom and experience of doing that, and now has something to share.
Right.
And so it can give us sort of like context for why we're
Yeah.
here. and a deeper why on an archetypal level.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like, going through that, and he did that with many of us there. It was just, there was this kind of aha, like it just fit, like, oh, that makes sense. It
Yeah.
really just resonated so deeply.
But
And then,
the tarot is pretty fascinating because, there are 22 cards in the deck. And so, or 22 major arcana, major archetypes.
right.
And these are really kind of looked at as the major steps we go through in life on we could call a hero's journey.
Yes.
So we start out at 0, the fool.
Mm.
We're born, we're completely open, completely curious, completely playful and spontaneous.
Yeah.
And we go through these various archetypes until we hit 21, which is kind of like a completion. But then at age 22, we leave college and we're out into the world and we're kind of like a child again.
Yeah.
We're the entry level job and we don't know anything and we're kind of like totally green. And then we go through the next thing, the next 21 years, and then we hit 44. And that's like a new beginning of maybe having a family or having children and learning all about that, or kind of asking deeper questions about what your purpose is in your life and why you're here. And you kind of almost have
Yeah. Yeah.
a childlike curiosity again. Then you go through the next 21, and then you hit 66. And then you're becoming like an elder, and you see like these wise elders that have the face of a child. They're smiling, not all of them, but the ones that actually have gone through the journey of life hit that 66 or that next one at 88 if they're lucky, and they actually come back to that fool again, where they now have the wisdom of being an adult and their
Right.
life experience, but they have the playfulness and the spontaneity of the child.
Yeah.
So it can be, why we have this main path each year or at different times in our life. We experience all of these different archetypes through progression of life. We need to learn about how to engage with the queen or the
Yeah.
empress, how to engage with the king, our own king and queen, and the king and queens in the world and
Sure.
in our life, how to balance our mind with the priestess. We have to become the teacher and how to deal with teachers, and then we have to engage in relationships. We have to choose a path with the chariot, find balance,
Yeah.
managing the hermit, and we go forth through these different aspects. And so learning about these tarot cards in another way, they're kind of like the laws of nature,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they give us sort of a framework, or again an archetype, an architecture for the different stages in life and the different kind of challenges and opportunities we may be working with, and what is the tension that's held between them. So if you take it back to yoga, like all of these archetypes are held in a tension.
Right.
If you think of the emperor, there is a tension between the polarities of what a positive emperor looks like and maybe the shadow side of an emperor being overly controlling.
Right.
The same thing with the empress. There's like the nurturing, creative mother, and then there's like the smothering mother that never lets her
Right.
child out of their house. So all of these archetypes are held in this tantra or this tension of polarity. And behind that, there are this yantra or
Mm.
this energetic component that is supporting all this. Like, for example, the chariot has the tantra or the tension of the positive and negative aspects of being a chariot, which is like you're an adventurer, you're a
Yeah.
risk taker, you're an explorer. But the shadow side of the chariot is, let's say, not stopping to smell the roses in your life.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that's being held in a tantra in your life. And you're here to kind of see, okay, how do I find myself within this framework? And how do I
Yeah.
stay kind of within the gutters, so to
Yeah.
speak,
So to
and
speak.
stay kind
Sure.
of down the middle way? But behind that tantra is a yantra, which is this law of movement that's moving through the chariot. And so all of these archetypes can be great reflections for just different ways that we can
Yeah.
work with the energies of life.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. I just love it. And then also too, on that kind of, we've got the tarot, and then the other thing is, maybe can you speak a little bit about uncovering our totem animals and how that can be significant as well in our life? And how do we know? How does one know what their spirit animal, their totem animal might be?
Yeah. I'm not I've had experiences in that,
Hmm.
which I can share. I I'm not an expert on
Uh-huh.
practices to uncover that.
Uh-huh.
I do have various things in my course where I take people through, so what I think is interesting is that when we think about our businesses,
Yes.
like take the Holistic Healer podcast, or if I took one of the markets that I traded in Wall Street,
Mm-hmm.
often we think of these things as almost personality lists.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
just like entities.
Yep.
But in the reality, I think of them as alive. Like I'm not the owner or the creator of the abundance archetype. I almost work for her. Like there's a larger
Mm.
personality, there's a
Yeah.
larger being at work. When I
Mm.
was trading, Paul Tudor Jones, my ex boss, used to call the market Mr. Market.
Okay.
With this idea that actually our businesses, our our things that we're trying to achieve, or our goals, or even our roles, or this podcast, that there's actually an intelligence behind it,
Yeah.
and engaging with that intelligence as if we're in relationship with it
Mm.
can be very helpful to inform us. So instead
Yeah.
of waking up and thinking, oh, I'm gonna, go get this guest, or I'm gonna do this marketing thing, or I'm gonna push just this thing on Instagram, it's being in a more receptive mode, maybe even just for a minute or two,
Yeah.
and listening to the podcast and just engaging with this. Like, okay, if my podcast was alive, what would it look like?
Mm.
Would it look like a man, a woman, a dog, a bear? And then like
Yeah.
beginning to have a relationship in a creative way with this personified being,
Mm.
knowing that there is some kind of essence like energy or some kind of intelligence in the businesses we're in.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to totems, there's many different meditations and there's many different ways you can do
Yeah.
that. I mean, it could just be as simple as an animal that calls you or something that you see all the
Yeah.
time, and just get curious about, why am I seeing this animal now? What is the symbolic meaning behind it? I mean, it could
Yeah.
be as simple as just saying, what's the looking up online, like the
Yeah.
symbolism, spiritual meaning of a turkey, if you see one that's completely random, and then just seeing like, where do I need more of that kind of energy in my life? Where am I
Yeah.
already like that, and where do I need more of it?
Yeah.
For me, I've done some pretty interesting things in that I've worked with a Native American woman named White Eagle Medicine Woman in Homer, Alaska. And for 3 years in a row, I participated so far in what's called an animal rights dance.
Oh, wow.
So through that process and through a process of meditation, I found out that I'm working with the deer
Mm.
totem, which to me, growing up with like deers everywhere, I was like, what a kind of
Yeah.
what a
What?
terrible totem, like I want like a bear or something
Yeah.
cool. But I basically spent the last 3 years just thinking about and learning from the deer. And there is just so much incredible information. Like, for example, take the deer's gaze.
Mm.
We think of this thing as like, oh, they're a stupid animal. There's a deer in headlights. But if you've ever seen a deer, they're looking deeply into
Oh,
you.
yeah.
They're looking right through you almost.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I say, like, how can I use that energy when I'm looking at my kids?
Mm.
How can I use that energy when I'm talking to my wife? Or how can I have that kind of watching and observation when I'm with my clients,
Yeah.
right? The ways that deers gracefully move through the fields, prancing around. Like, how
Yes.
could I have that kind of energy in my life? I mean, it can be as simple as that. But the rituals that I've partaken in is that for 3 years in a row, I've gone to Alaska. I've put it on regalia, like deer costumes and things that
Yep.
I've made with like antlers and skins and all sorts of stuff. Wrote songs on the flute and the drums and vocals to the deer, and spent full days dancing around the fire and moving around, like literally clawing on the ground and pawing and prancing, and I mean, like seemingly ridiculous stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
but really going fully into the experience of not making this an academic process, right? Like, if you think that you have a bear totem,
Mm-hmm.
spend a few minutes being bear like,
Right.
growling and clawing.
Yeah.
And that just may be what you need more of in your life.
Yeah.
If you have an eagle that calls to you,
Yeah.
what is it like to have a bird's eye view? What is it like to literally fly around your room, go flap your wings with your kids, or go up high on a chair and imagine you're perching on top of a tree?
Yeah.
Like really stepping into this The same thing happens with the tarot. The tarot, we often look at symbolism books or cards or what other people tell us about it, the card,
Right.
and we just make it very academic. What is it like to embody the fool? What
Mm.
would it like to wake up today and to do something spontaneous, to be curious about something, to
Yeah.
be more playful, and to really live it? That's
Yeah.
the important thing, is to make these totems and to make these archetypes and to make the tarot alive within us and not
Yeah.
have it just be a book knowledge.
Yeah, for sure. And there's such a big difference in actually just reading something and feeling like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And to truly, like you say, embody that and the difference and how you can feel into that. It's just, I mean, you, you can't replace the just kind of reading knowledge by truly, stepping into something and experiencing it,
Yeah. The same things happens with our dreams. If we
Mm-hmm.
dream of an animal, if we dream of a scary figure, you
Yeah.
know, if we dream of a turtle or a person, what is it like to spend a few minutes just stepping into the dream in the morning?
Yeah.
What would it be like to move around turtle-like or to feel like this person would feel? And to really kind of make it an active process.
Mm.
The dreaming process is alive in us. The
Yeah.
archetypes are verb. They're happening through us.
Yeah.
It's a process of action and process of movement, and to not making dreams be somebody else's interpretation, but actually stepping into the figures and
Yeah.
feeling deeply what it means like to be like that, and just to ask yourself, where do I need more of this in my life?
Yeah.
Where am I too much like this? Where am I already like this? These just kind of simple reflective questions can be
Yeah.
really great ways to integrate it and to actually feel it.
Yeah, so much of what we've talked about today is really, I feel like it just always comes back around to this self inquiry piece of asking the questions to yourself, no matter what it is. Should I do this plant medicine? Why am I doing the plant medicine? What would it feel like to do this? Where am I feeling lack? Where am I feeling like it's just really becoming more in touch with ourselves to truly get the answers that we're looking for?
And I think
And
the great question with that is, what is the self?
yes. Who
As the
am I?
first inquiry. What is
Yeah.
this thing I'm calling self?
Yeah.
Is it my possessions? Is it my pains? Is it my pleasures? Is it this body that's turning over every single day? What is this self?
Yeah.
Almost by knowing what we're not, we can find out what we are.
Hmm. And
And
so
so
many
really,
times
really doing a deep inquiry, sorry. But yeah,
yeah,
doing a
no, you
deep
go ahead.
inquiry around these questions is really important. And I think
Yeah.
in times past, we would have made these people very revered.
Yeah.
But, in most of our university and education, we don't actually support asking kind of existential questions. We have
No.
we have IQ, but we don't have an EX
No.
intelligence, an existential
No.
intelligence that we don't support really asking bigger questions about life and having a deeper curiosity. I think that's really important. Curiosity etymologically comes from the same word as cure.
Mm.
Curiosity is the cure. Be
Yeah.
curious about your life.
Wow.
Be curious about nature. Be
Hmm.
curious about your relationships. Be curious about the things that are happening to you. Open up your mind, read new things, explore things, knowing that everything is happening with some kind of meaning, and really dive deep into your own life.
Yeah. And I think too, because, most people, when you say, oh, who are you? Automatically, it's what they define themselves by. So, oh, I work here. I'm a mom. I'm a dad. I'm a this. I'm a that. But they don't truly they haven't fully understood the question. Like, no, we're not asking what you do. It's like, who are you? Like, what are you? And so again, like, really going
Yeah.
deep within yourself and trying to uncover those truths about yourself can be so transformative in your life. And I wanted to, so when it comes to your course, the Abundance Archetype,
Mhm.
can you tell us a little bit about what is involved in that? What is it? Is it doing exercises every day, both emotionally, physically? Like, can you just give a little bit of a run through as to what's entailed in your course?
Yeah. So just in short, basically I took what I created from a 20-year Wall Street career.
Uh-huh.
And I synthesized it down into an 8-step process of here are
Okay.
the key things you need to know to invest in wealth creation for yourself.
Okay.
Whether or not you're an investor or a yoga instructor or a householder or anything, these are the simple steps that I've synthesized, from all of the experiences that I had, are that things that people need to address if they want to create more money in their life. Simple as
Okay.
that. In the same way, those same principles actually apply to managing ourselves as our own business.
Got you.
What's the competitive edge of our business? What's the competitive edge of your podcast? What's your niche? What's the competitive edge of our life? What diet
Mm.
works best for us? What movement practice and so forth? How do we look at risk reward and diversity?
Right.
How do we use our units of investing? Like, where's our competitive edge and how do we invest our money? Well, how do we use time, money, energy, and resources, our attention, our love, our presence in our own life and so forth?
Right.
So I take
Okay.
them all through that. And then I also have an 8-step process to developing self-mastery, which is
Okay.
interesting because when I started studying flow states, which is really this end goal of mastery, is to be in this state where you're feeling and you're working at your best and things are just flowing for you. I traced the history back, and it was interesting because it took me all the way back to William James in the late 1800s, American psychologist. And what occurred to me was that he was heavily influenced by India and
Oh.
yoga, which is not really that well known, I don't think. And so what I got led down a path to was that the 8 limbs of Ashtanga yoga
Mm-hmm.
are actually 8 steps to creating flow. And so I built my 8 steps to mastery kind of centered around those 8 steps, but modernized them to what can work in the professional world of working on your belief systems, working on those dreamlike aspects,
Right.
working on your diet, working on your ergonomics and breathing and coherence and eliminating distractions and altering your state and creativity and all these things to teach you how to create the foundation to have more access to those right brain eureka moments and get into a flow state in your life. So, in short, it's an 8-week course
Mm-hmm.
that when somebody signs up, they get access to the course for life and they get the information downloaded to them over an 8-week period. There's
Yeah.
over 100 videos and
Wow.
visualizations and meditations and guest speakers and guest lectures. And the real amazing thing is that they get an opportunity to join my mentorship program by signing up as part of the course, where they do live group coaching calls with me 2 times a week and other special guests that come in. So it's really the most meaningful thing actually has been this community aspect.
Yeah,
The
for
course has been
sure.
amazing. There's so much material on there, but actually sitting down with like-minded people on Zoom 2 times a week and really going deep, doing live coaching, answering questions, that's where I found even the most profound transformation for my clients that come from all walks of life, from
Yeah.
coaches that want to improve themselves and they
Mm-hmm.
want to find out how they can actually get more of this information into their practice so they can charge more money. I've
Yep.
seen coaches in the holistic space actually make more money by raising their rates than they spent
Mm.
on my course because of the information that
Sure.
they've picked in there. And then on the flip side, I have a lot of Wall Street and investor type people running companies and different kind of more financial things that want to have more meaning and more purpose and better health in their life. And so I
Wow.
have kind of
That's amazing.
from both spectrums.
Wow, that's
And the
great.
easiest way to find out about this is if you go to my website, jasonpickard.org, you can download my guide for free, that my 8 keys to greater wealth and well-being, which is just a free gift to the
Okay.
world.
Yep.
It's a 27-page document that I created of 8 things you can do today to just have more abundance in your life that won't cost you any more time, money, energy, resources. So really the greatest way to find out about it, or just to get free information, is just to download my free guide.
Yeah, for sure. And that would be the start of making that investment in yourself, right? Like what we
Yeah,
talked about at the beginning.
it's 8 things that I put out there that I said, if people just did these 8 things, it should
Yeah.
improve their life. They should feel more abundant, and they don't have to invest in anything to do it other than refocusing their energy into themselves.
Yeah, because by making better choices, by choosing, a whole food base instead of a processed food, for example, or like you talked about in the beginning, maybe getting that extra hour of sleep each night, the change that can come just from a few little things can be so monumental when it comes to how you really show up every day. And yeah,
It's true. It's hard to find a better risk reward investment than sleep.
oh God, I am asleep.
It's totally free.
Yeah.
And it has amazing benefits that not only improve your health, but also your productivity.
That's one thing. I think, I don't know where I heard you talk about, Brian Johnson. Everyone knows about Brian Johnson. He's trying to, escape death and or be the longest living man on the planet. But that's one, he talks a lot about the importance of sleep, and it's like a deal breaker. It's like I'm
Yeah.
in bed at 8 o'clock and I'm up at this time and nothing gets in the way of that,
Well, right now my newborn is getting in the way of that for me.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah.
I don't know. Apologies if I look pretty tired right now, but
No, you don't look tired.
I've been up for days in a row, changing diapers and being woken up in the middle of the night. So
Yeah.
there's certainly an adjustment period on that. But to the degree that you can,
Yeah,
if
to
you
the
if you
degree
don't
that
have
you can, if you don't
four
have a
kids and a
newborn
newborn,
or a new puppy or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
sleep is your best friend. And
Yeah.
to be completely honest, some of my biggest insights for creating this course came while I was sleeping in my dreams. And so it's
Wow.
not just this like ridiculous thing. It actually gives us so much energy, so much health, and it could be a place where we could seed new ideas for the day.
Yeah. Oh gosh, absolutely. I'm like a sleep card carrying sleeper, right all the way home. So one thing I like to ask all my guests, my last question is, what is your authentic life print? What is your unique expression in the world as Jason Pickard?
Yeah, that is interesting because I was thinking about authenticity, and without going on a totally long-winded tangent on
Yeah, I
etymology, which
kind
I
of want to
tend to
talk
do,
about that too.
the I was thinking about how authentic has the same root of author.
Mm,
And so we're being authentic when we're the author of our own life,
mm,
when we're really bringing forth our own unique gifts, skills, and talents and being
yeah,
ourselves to the truest. It's
yeah.
interesting too, because it comes from a Sanskrit word that authentic that leads to life and
Mm,
breath. And so I think the most authentic we can be is when we're coming from our own heart, we're true
mm,
to ourselves, we're living that fully in the world, we're connected to our own vitality and energy, and we're experiencing reverence for life. And I do
yeah,
my best each day to do that.
to do that. Wow, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I think jasonpickard.org is your website.
Yep,
Is that right? And
that's right.
then I'll link everything below, your Instagram. I'm sure people can like get a hold of you there as well.
Yeah, it's easy.
Um,
I'd love to hear from you. Just reach out, get my free guide, or just hit me up on DM, and let's see where it goes.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much. I've loved
Thank you.
talking to you today. It's just been so much amazing information. So, yeah,
Thank you.
so grateful.
Me too. I really appreciate it.